На зустрічі президента України Володимира Зеленського з прем'єр-міністром Канади Джастіном Трюдо свою промову проголосила віце-прем'єр-міністр Канади Chrystia Freeland, котра підтримала Україну у її боротьбі з ворогом та зголосилася відкривати цей захід.
Good evening. Bonsoir. Добрий вечір. Je suis très heureuse que nous soyons ici. Toronto a une communauté ukrainienne remarquable et c'est un jour incroyablement important pour toutes les Canadiennes et Canadiens d'une nation à l'autre. Je vous remercie tous d'être ici aujourd'hui et de votre soutien indéfectible pour le courageux peuple ukrainien. Governing is hard. It requires compromise and a balancing of competing legitimate interests that is usually painful and sometimes feels impossible. Decisions are often a 51-49 call and about choosing between different shades of gray. But every once in a while, a leader faces a black and white choice, a choice of utter moral clarity. And sometimes, accustomed as we are to operating in a world of ambiguity, leaders of democracies can be slow to see that the issue before them is indeed a clear-cut contest between right and wrong. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is such a contest. It is today's great fight between light and darkness. One of the leaders who understood that soonest and who has been most resolute is our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. A few days after Putin's tanks rolled across the Ukrainian border, I was in a meeting with the Prime Minister. Now, that was a time when Russian assassins were roaming the streets of Kyiv, and the threat to the lives of Ukraine's leaders seemed immediate. They often, at the beginning of meetings, Ukraine's leaders said, "I hope you'll see me tomorrow." Around the world, the expert consensus was that the Ukrainian capital would fall in weeks, if not days. But in that candid and private discussion, our Prime Minister had total certainty about what would happen. Ukraine would never give up, he said. We would see the same invincible determination from the people of Ukraine as the British had displayed during the Blitz, when Hitler's bombers rained death from the sky. He said, and this was just a couple of weeks after the war started, that Ukraine would hold the line, that Ukraine would fight back, and that Ukraine would win. And he was right. Because, as I think all of us now recognize, as all of the people of Canada recognize, as all of the people of the free world recognize, this is a war where the stakes are black and white. This is a fight between good and evil. And that is why the Prime Minister committed then, right at the beginning, that Canada would never waver. And that is why we are even more resolute now, after 575 long days of brutal fighting. We know that Ukraine can and must and will win this war. Mais aujourd'hui, alors que la guerre s'éternise et que de nouveaux Ukrainiens meurent chaque jour, certaines voix se fatiguent et faiblissent. Se voient étonnamment et admirablement ne sont pas en Ukraine. Ce sont les Ukrainiens qui sont tués et torturés. Ce sont les femmes ukrainiennes qui sont violées. Ce sont les enfants ukrainiens qui sont kidnappés par le régime criminel de Poutine. Et pourtant, c'est dans des démocraties pacifiques, loin des lignes de front, que certains se demandent si la démocratie ukrainienne est assez importante, si ce combat vaut la peine d'être mené à des coups qui sont définitivement importants. Aujourd'hui, ce soir, le Canada a l'occasion de dire au peuple ukrainien et à son remarquable leader que nous ne les abandonnerons jamais. Today is an opportunity for us, the people of Canada, represented by the amazing Canadians gathered here tonight, to say to the brave people of Ukraine, through their remarkable leader and his amazing wife, Olena, who is here with us too. Tonight is our night to say to them, we will keep the faith. We will never abandon you. Our determination is absolute. Now, one of my favorite poems is written by a Ukrainian poet called Ivan Franko. It's called To the Great Moment, До великого моменту. When President Volodymyr Zelenskyy made his first visit to Canada, to Toronto, in July of 2019, shortly after his election, I quoted a passage from that poem while introducing him. Here's that passage. До великого моменту будь готовий кожен з вас. Кожен може стати Богданом, як настане слушний час. I'm going to translate freely here. This is my own translation, not a literary one. Let every one of you be ready for the great moment. Each one of us can be the decisive leader when the consequential moment comes. We did not know then, in the summer of 2019, when that consequential moment would arrive, or quite how consequential it would be. But in the bloody trenches dug into its famous black earth, and in the war-torn streets of its proud and beautiful cities, Ukraine is today facing that most consequential of moments, that великий moment. And under President Zelenskyy's decisive leadership, millions upon millions upon millions of Ukrainians have proven themselves worthy of that moment. But this fight, the fight for democracy, must also be Canada's moment. Our Prime Minister recognized that from the very beginning. In the conversation I recounted, and in meeting after meeting, where I have watched him rallying the world to support Ukraine, our Prime Minister has proven himself ready for our great moment. And in so doing, he has allowed all of us as Canadians to show ourselves as a country to be ready for that great moment. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, Шановні пани і панове, it's a huge honor for me to welcome the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.